The massive council chamber stretched far beyond what human eyes could see. Thousands of beings filled the space, each representing their own world and people. Some floated in tanks of strange liquid. Others stood on legs that bent in impossible ways. A few existed as pure light, shimmering and dancing in the air. Ambassador Zektar stepped forward to the center podium. His body looked like living crystal, reflecting the lights of the chamber in rainbow patterns. When he spoke, his words came through machines that turned his thoughts into sounds every species could understand. Fellow beings of the galaxy, he began, his voice echoing through the vast space. Today we face the most important decision in our history. We have discovered a new world. A world called Earth. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Some beings clicked their mandibles. Others flashed colors across their skin. The floating jellyfish-like creatures pulsed with nervous energy. The beings on this world call themselves humans, Zektar continued. We have watched them for 3 years now. We have studied their history, their behavior, their rapid growth, and what we found terrifies us. He raised one crystalline hand and images appeared in the air above the assembly. Pictures of Earth filled the space, blue oceans, green lands, white clouds. It looked peaceful and beautiful. This appears to be a gentle world, Zektar said. But look closer, the images changed. Now they showed human cities with tall buildings reaching toward the sky. They showed roads crossing continents and ships crossing oceans. They showed humans working together to build incredible things. They have existed as a space-capable species for less than 100 Earth years, Zektar explained. In that time, they have gone from simple flying machines to spacecraft that can reach other worlds. Most species take thousands of years to achieve such progress. The images changed again. Now they showed human armies marching across battlefields. They showed weapons that could destroy entire cities. They showed tests where humans split the very atoms of matter, creating explosions that could be seen from space. But this is not what makes them dangerous, Zektar continued. Many species have weapons. Many species have advanced quickly. What makes humans unique is this. New images appeared. These showed human art, human music, human stories. They showed humans dreaming of reaching the stars. They showed human children looking up at the night sky with wonder in their eyes. They dream of conquest, Zektar said, not just of their own world but of the entire galaxy. Their stories speak of ruling among the stars. Their art shows them as masters of space itself. They have not even left their own solar system, yet they already imagine themselves as galactic emperors. A delegate from the ethereal collective rose to speak. The being looked like mist given form, barely visible except for 2 glowing points that might have been eyes. Surely you exaggerate, Ambassador, the ethereal said in a voice like wind through trees. We have observed many young species. Most grow beyond their aggressive phase as they mature. That is what we hoped, Zektar replied. But look at their response to our first contact. The air filled with new images. These showed massive dishes pointed at the sky, sending signals into space. They showed humans working frantically to build bigger and better communication systems. When we first sent them a peaceful greeting, they responded with mathematical sequences, normal behavior for a young species. But then they sent coordinates. The chamber grew quiet. Even the constant humming and clicking of various alien voices stopped. The coordinates led to their weapons testing sites, Zektar continued. Their first message to the galaxy was to show us their most destructive capabilities. They wanted us to know they could defend themselves. A massive creature with 6 arms and skin like tree bark spoke up. Perhaps they were simply afraid. Fear makes many species act aggressively. We thought the same, Zektar said. So we studied their entertainment, their stories, their dreams. What we found was far worse than fear. More images appeared. These showed human movies about space wars. They showed human books about conquering alien worlds. They showed human games where players controlled vast galactic empires. They do not dream of joining galactic civilization, Zektar explained. They dream of ruling it. Every story they tell about meeting other species ends the same way, with humans in control. They cannot imagine a universe where they are not the dominant force. The delegates began talking among themselves. Voices rose in dozens of languages. Some sounded worried, others sounded angry. Zektar waited for quiet, then continued. We face a choice today. We can welcome humans into our galactic community and hope they will change, or we can act now, while they are still confined to one world. What do you propose? Asked a delegate whose body seemed to be made of living metal. Subjugation, Zektar said simply. We bring their world under our control. We take charge of their development. We use their creativity and energy for the good of all species, but we do not let them run free to threaten the peace we have built. The chamber erupted in discussion. Some delegates seemed shocked. Others nodded in agreement. The ethereal collective representative spoke again. You speak of enslaving an entire species, the being said. We have not done such a thing in 10,000 years. It goes against everything we have built, does it? Zektar asked. We quarantine dangerous diseases. We contain unstable stars that might explode. We regulate species that reproduce too quickly and might overwhelm their ecosystems. How is this different? A new voice spoke up. It came from one of the ancient progenitors. Being so old, they had helped seed life across the galaxy. When a progenitor spoke, everyone listened. The young crystal speaks truth, the ancient being said in a voice like distant thunder. We have seen species like this before. Species that grow too fast, dream too big, reach too far. They always bring destruction. Always. But they could also bring great benefits, another delegate argued. Their rapid innovation could solve problems we have struggled with for centuries. Under our guidance, Zektar said. With our wisdom to temper their aggression. We do not seek to destroy them. We seek to protect both them and us from their own dangerous nature. The debate continued for hours. Delegates shared examples from their own histories. They talked about species that had been allowed to develop freely and had become threats. They discussed the ethics of controlling another species' development. Finally, Zektar called for order. The time for discussion has ended, he announced. We must vote. The question is simple. Do we allow the humans of Earth to develop freely, or do we take control of their world for the safety of the galaxy? The voting began. One by one, each species cast their choice. The gentle ethereals, who had never known war, voted to control the humans. The ancient progenitors, wise beyond measure, agreed that Earth must be subjugated. The warrior species voted yes, seeing humans as a future threat. The peaceful species voted yes, fearing human aggression. Even the species that normally stayed neutral, that never took sides in galactic politics, cast their votes to control Earth. As the final votes were counted, Zektar announced the result. 847 species have voted. The decision is unanimous. Earth will be brought under galactic control. The human species will be subjugated for the safety of all. The chamber fell silent. In the history of the Galactic Council, never before had every single species agreed on anything. The decision was final. Earth would be invaded. Humanity would be enslaved. Their dangerous creativity would be channeled for the good of the galaxy. What could one primitive world do against the combined might of nearly 1,000 advanced civilizations? None of them could imagine that they had just made the greatest mistake in galactic history. Admiral Thexnor stood on the bridge of his flagship, staring at the tactical display before him. 10,000 ships spread out in perfect formation around him. Each vessel represented the finest military technology of different species across the galaxy. The largest fleet ever assembled floated in the darkness of space. All pointed toward one small blue world. Status report, the Admiral commanded, his forearms working the control panels with practiced ease. All fleet groups report ready. Admiral, replied his second-in-command, a being whose skin shifted colors as it spoke. The hegemony battle cruisers are in position. The ethereal ships have charged their energy weapons. Even the Void Singers have brought their reality-warping vessels. Thexnor nodded, his confidence absolute. How could it not be? This fleet could conquer entire galactic sectors. It represented the combined military might of civilizations that had ruled space for thousands of years. Against them stood one world with primitive technology and no real space presence. How long until we reach the target system? He asked. 6 days at current speed, Admiral. The humans have detected our approach. Their primitive sensors picked us up when we dropped out of faster-than-light travel. And their response? The communications officer, a being that looked like an oversized insect, clicked its mandibles nervously. Strange, Admiral. They sent only one message. It said, "We understand. See you soon." Thexnor frowned. He had expected panic. He had expected desperate attempts at negotiation. He had expected surrender. This calm acceptance bothered him more than any of those responses would have. Perhaps they know resistance is futile, suggested his second-in-command. Perhaps, Thexnor agreed, but something felt wrong. Over the next 6 days, the fleet monitored human communications. They intercepted messages between Earth and the few human settlements on other worlds in their system. The messages were strangely calm. Humans spoke to each other like people preparing for a difficult but expected task. "They are evacuating their outer settlements," reported the intelligence officer, "but not in panic. They seem organized, methodical. Probably gathering their people to defend their homeworld," Thexnor decided. "It will make our task easier if they are all in one place." But as the fleet drew closer to Earth's solar system, the Admiral began to notice other things. Human ships moved between their worlds constantly, but they were not warships. They looked like cargo vessels and construction ships. "What are they building?" he wondered aloud. "Unknown, Admiral. Our long-range sensors cannot penetrate the interference they are generating." On the final day of approach, the fleet prepared for battle. Weapons charged, shields activated, troops readied for planetary assault. Thexnor had fought in dozens of battles across the galaxy. This would be his easiest victory. Then they arrived at Earth's system and everything went wrong. "Admiral," the sensor officer called out, his voice filled with confusion. "I'm not reading the planet." "What do you mean?" Thexnor demanded. "Earth, sir. It's not there." The main screen lit up with images of the inner solar system. Where Earth should have been, space appeared empty except for what looked like debris fields and a large space station. "Impossible," Thexnor muttered. "They moved their entire world?" "Sir," the communications officer interrupted. "We're receiving a transmission from the space station." "Put it through." The screen filled with the image of a human female. She wore what appeared to be a military uniform and her expression was calm and determined. "Welcome to our solar system," she said. "I am General Sarah Chen of the United Earth Defense Force. I assume you are here for the subjugation vote." Thexnor stepped forward. "I am Admiral Thexnor. By order of the Galactic Council, you will surrender immediately." The human smiled, and something about that smile made Thexnor's blood run cold. "Admiral," General Chen said, "did you really think we spent 3 years sitting around waiting for you?" Before Thexnor could respond, his sensor officer screamed a warning. "Admiral, the debris fields, they're not debris. They're weapons platforms." The space around Earth erupted in violence. What the aliens had mistaken for floating wreckage suddenly came alive with energy. Thousands of hidden weapons opened fire simultaneously. Beams of light that burned hotter than stars lanced out from concealed positions. Missiles that moved faster than thought streaked toward the alien fleet. But these were not the primitive weapons the aliens expected. Somehow, impossibly, the humans had developed technology that cut through alien shields like they were made of paper. "How is this possible?" Thexnor shouted as his flagship shook under weapon impacts. "Admiral," his intelligence officer called out, terror in his voice. "I'm analyzing their technology. Somehow they've reverse-engineered our own systems. But they've improved them, made them more efficient, more powerful." The battle was a massacre. Ships that had never known defeat found their hulls torn open by weapons that should not exist. The hegemony's finest cruisers, protected by shields that could stop nuclear explosions, crumpled under the human assault. "All ships retreat," Thexnor ordered. "Fall back to safe distance." But as the surviving ships tried to escape, they discovered something even more terrifying. The space station was moving, and it was not just any space station. "Admiral," the sensor officer whispered, "that's not a space station. It's their moon. They've turned their moon into a mobile weapons platform." The moon, carved out and rebuilt into a fortress beyond imagination, accelerated toward the fleeing alien ships. Weapons bristled from every surface. Engines that defied physics pushed the massive object through space. And behind it, emerging from the other side of the sun, came Earth itself. The planet had been transformed into something from a nightmare. Its surface crawled with weapon emplacements. Massive engines, each one larger than a city, pushed the world through space. The entire planet had become a kinetic weapon of unimaginable scale. They weaponized their homeworld. Thexnor breathed in horror. The human general's voice came through their communications again. 3 years ago, every species in the galaxy voted to enslave us. Every single one. You made your intentions clear. So we prepared. Thexnor watched in shock as Earth changed course, moving to intercept his fleet. The mathematics were simple and terrifying. A planet moving at the speed Earth was traveling would destroy anything it hit. Nothing could withstand that kind of impact. "General Chen," he called out desperately, "please, we can negotiate. We can discuss terms." "You had your chance to negotiate," Chen replied. You chose war instead. Now you get to see what humans do to those who threaten our families. The remaining alien ships scattered in all directions, but the humans were ready for that too. Small, fast ships emerged from hiding places throughout the system. They moved with precision and purpose, hunting down fleeing aliens like predators that had practiced this hunt 1,000 times. Thexanor's flagship limped away from the system, one of the few ships to escape the slaughter. Behind him, the greatest fleet in galactic history burned in the darkness of space. "Admiral," his communications officer said quietly, "we're receiving surrender requests from 17 species. They want to negotiate with the humans." Thexanor stared at the tactical display, watching Earth continue its impossible journey through space. Humanity had not just defended themselves. They had revealed capabilities that should have taken centuries to develop. "Send a message to the Galactic Council," he ordered. "Tell them we have failed. Tell them the humans are not what we thought they were." He paused, watching as another alien ship exploded in the distance. "Tell them we may have made a terrible mistake." In the space around Earth, the wreckage of 10,000 ships drifted in the void, and somewhere among that wreckage humanity was already at work, studying alien technology, learning new ways to improve their defenses. The invasion had failed, but this was just the beginning. General Sarah Chen stood in the command center of the UES Retribution, watching the tactical display that showed the entire galaxy. Red dots marked alien homeworlds. Green dots showed human fleets. Over the past 4 months, there had been a lot more green and a lot less red. "Status report," she commanded, her voice calm despite the magnitude of what she was overseeing. Lieutenant Commander Rodriguez looked up from his station. "The Hegemony homeworld's orbital defenses have been destroyed. Fleet Group 7 reports complete control of their space stations. The ethereal core worlds have gone dark after our nanomachine deployment, and Admiral Peterson sends word that the progenitor space is requesting immediate surrender." Chen nodded, making notes on her personal tablet. "Any word from the Void Singers?" "They sent another surrender request an hour ago. That makes it the 5th one this week." "Tell them the same thing we told them the first 4 times," Chen replied. "Unconditional surrender, full technological disclosure, and reparations for the invasion attempt. No negotiations." She turned to look at the massive view screen that dominated the front wall. It showed the current target, a world called Kethmorna, homeworld of a species that had been particularly enthusiastic about enslaving humanity. Their cities sparkled like jewels across the planet's surface. "Are the orbital bombardment platforms in position?" she asked. "Yes, General. We can begin the assault at your command." Chen considered this. 4 months ago, she had been a colonel in the Earth Defense Force worried about protecting one world. Now she commanded fleets that spanned the galaxy, deciding the fate of entire civilizations. It had not been her choice. Humanity had tried to send diplomats after their defensive victory. They had offered to negotiate to find peaceful solutions. The galactic response had been to send more fleets, larger armies, deadlier weapons, so humanity had stopped asking for peace and started taking it. "General," Rodriguez said quietly, "are you sure about this? The targeting data shows mostly civilian populations down there." Chen turned to look at him. Rodriguez was young, had not been alive during the dark months when humanity thought they would all become slaves. He had not lived with the fear that every human had carried for 3 years. "Commander," she said, "do you know what the Kethmornans did when they heard about the vote to subjugate Earth?" Rodriguez shook his head. "They celebrated. They threw parties in their streets. They made jokes about keeping humans as pets. When our diplomatic ship arrived here 2 months ago trying to negotiate peace, they captured our ambassador and sent us a video of her execution." The command center had gone quiet. Everyone was listening. "They had 847 chances to choose peace," Chen continued. "Every species that voted could have said no, could have stood up for us, could have demanded we be treated as equals. Not one of them did." She turned back to the view screen, looking at the beautiful world below. The Kethmornans made their choice. Now they live with the consequences. "Begin orbital bombardment. Target military installations only. We're not like them. We don't murder civilians for fun." The space around the planet lit up as human weapons platforms opened fire. But these were not the crude nuclear weapons that humanity had possessed just years before. These were tools of precision and power that surpassed anything the galaxy had ever seen. Beams of coherent energy lanced down from orbit, striking with surgical accuracy. Military bases simply vanished. Their matter converted to energy and controlled fusion reactions. Weapons factories collapsed as nanomachines dismantled their atomic structure. Defense satellites fell silent as computer viruses. Written by human programmers who understood alien software better than its creators, took control of their systems. "General," the communications officer called out, "we're receiving a transmission from the planetary government." "Put it through." The screen filled with the image of a being that looked like a cross between a bird and a lizard. Its feathers were bright blue, but now they seemed dull with fear. "Please," the alien said, "we surrender. We offer unconditional surrender." Chen studied the creature for a moment. "You had the chance to surrender months ago. You chose to execute our ambassador instead." "We were wrong," the alien pleaded. "We see that now. Please show mercy, the same mercy you showed our ambassador. We made a mistake. We were frightened. Your species, your rapid development, it threatened everything we understood about the galaxy." Chen leaned forward. "And rather than try to understand us, rather than try to work with us, you decided we should be slaves." "Yes," the alien admitted, its voice breaking. "We were wrong. Completely wrong. Please, we have families, children." "So do we," Chen replied. "So did Ambassador Williams, who you murdered on live broadcast." She gestured to Rodriguez. "Commander, send down the occupation forces. Standard procedure. Disarm their military, take control of their government, begin integration into human administrative zones." "General," the alien on the screen said, "what will happen to my people?" Chen considered the question. "You'll be treated better than you planned to treat us. Your children will go to school alongside human children. Your scientists will work with human scientists. Your artists will share their work with human artists. You'll become part of something larger than yourself. And if we resist, then you'll discover that we're exactly as dangerous as you thought we were." The transmission ended. Chen turned back to the tactical display, already focusing on the next target. "General," Rodriguez said, "I still don't understand how we've been so successful. These species have had space travel for thousands of years. They should be more advanced than us." Chen smiled grimly. "They are more advanced, Commander. Their technology is superior, their knowledge greater, their experience deeper. But they have one critical weakness." "What's that?" "They've been at peace for too long. Most of these species haven't fought a real war in centuries. They've grown soft, comfortable, predictable." She pointed to the tactical display, where human fleets moved in patterns that seemed chaotic, but were actually carefully coordinated. "We've been fighting each other for our entire history. We know how to adapt, how to innovate under pressure, how to find weaknesses in superior forces." They expected a conventional war against a primitive enemy. Instead, they got humans, Rodriguez nodded slowly. "And now? Now we finish what they started. Every species that voted to enslave us will learn what it means to threaten humanity. Some will learn through conquest, some through negotiation, some through destruction, but they will all learn." On the view screen, Kethamorna's surface showed new lights as human landing craft descended toward the major cities. Another world fell under human control. Another species learned that voting to enslave humanity had consequences. Chen looked at the galaxy map again. So many red dots still glowing, representing species that had yet to face human justice. "Where to next, General?" Rodriguez asked. Chen smiled, and it was not a gentle expression. "The progenitor homeworld. It's time the oldest species in the galaxy learned some respect for the youngest." The Galactic Council chamber looked nothing like it had 2 years before. Where once 847 species had sat in proud assembly, now barely 50 delegates huddled in the vast space. Empty seats stretched in all directions, each one representing a civilization that had fallen under human control. Ambassador Zektar stood at the center podium, but his crystalline form was cracked and dim. Parts of his body had been shattered during the siege of his homeworld. And even with medical treatment, he would never shine as brightly as before. Around him, the remaining free delegates waited in nervous silence. The ethereal collective had been reduced to 3 small colonies. The mighty progenitors now controlled only a handful of research stations. Even the ancient void singers had been forced to abandon most of their territory. "Fellow delegates," Zektar began, his voice barely carrying through the chamber's translation systems. "Today we face representatives of the human species. They have requested an audience with what remains of our council." The massive doors at the far end of the chamber opened with a sound like thunder. Through them walked 5 humans, their footsteps echoing in the enormous space. They wore simple clothes, not the elaborate robes of diplomacy or the armor of conquest. They looked like ordinary people. This somehow made them more terrifying than any display of power could have. The lead human was a woman with graying hair and calm eyes. The others included a man in what appeared to be a military uniform, an elderly woman who carried herself like a scientist, a younger man with the bearing of a diplomat, and someone who might have been an artist or philosopher. "I am General Sarah Chen," the lead human announced, her voice carrying easily through the vast chamber. "I speak for the Terran hegemony and the human species." She looked around the chamber, taking in the empty seats and frightened delegates. 2 years ago, in this very chamber, 847 species voted unanimously to subjugate my people. You decided that humanity was too dangerous to remain free. You chose to invade our world and enslave our species. The silence in the chamber was absolute. Even the constant background hum of alien life support systems seemed muted. Today, 312 of those species exist under human administration. 89 have been completely integrated into our government. 43 have ceased to exist as independent civilizations. Zektar found his voice. "General Chen, we made a mistake. We were afraid. Surely you can understand fear?" Dr. Elizabeth Martinez, the elderly scientist, stepped forward. "We understand fear very well, Ambassador. We lived with it for 3 years, knowing that 847 species wanted to put chains on our children. But fear does not excuse what you did," added the younger man, who introduced himself as Diplomat James Kim. "Fear does not justify voting to enslave an entire species. Fear does not make it acceptable to attempt genocide." "Genocide?" squeaked a delegate from one of the insectoid species. "We never intended genocide. We only wanted to control your development." General Chen's expression remained calm, but something cold flickered in her eyes. "You voted to destroy our independence, our right to choose our own future, our freedom to grow as we wished. What would you call that?" The artist, a woman named Lisa Zhang, spoke quietly. "You wanted to turn us into tools, living computers to solve your problems and fight your battles. You saw us not as people but as resources to be managed." "We were wrong," Zektar said, his cracked form pulsing with desperate energy. "Completely wrong. We see that now. Please show mercy." "Mercy?" General Chen repeated the word as if she had never heard it before. "Tell me, Ambassador, what mercy did you plan to show human children who would never know freedom? What mercy did you plan for human artists who would only create what you allowed? What mercy for human scientists who would only research what served your purposes?" The chamber fell silent again. The truth hung in the air like poison. Dr. Martinez spoke into the silence. "You made one critical error in your assessment of humanity, delegates. You studied our weapons, our wars, our conflicts. You saw our capacity for destruction and decided we were too dangerous. But you missed the most important thing about us." "What was that?" asked a delegate whose species looked like living trees. "We fight hardest when we fight for others," Martinez replied. "Every human victory in this war was motivated not by conquest, but by the need to protect our families, our friends, our way of life. You threatened not just us, but everyone we love." General Chen nodded. "Your mistake was assuming that because we were aggressive, we were evil. That because we were young, we were foolish. That because we were different, we were wrong." She walked closer to the podium where Zektar stood. "The irony is perfect," she said. "You voted to enslave us because you thought we were too dangerous to be free. Now you are free only because we are too dangerous for anyone else to threaten." "What do you mean?" Zektar asked. Diplomat Kim answered. "Look around this chamber, Ambassador. Look at the empty seats. Every species that might threaten galactic peace is now under our control. Every civilization that proved it would choose conquest over cooperation has been defanged. The species that remain free," General Chen continued, "are the ones that either stayed neutral in the vote or have proven they can coexist peacefully. You are the last of the aggressive, expansion-minded civilizations, and you are here begging for mercy." Artist Zhang stepped forward. "But here's what you still don't understand about humans. We don't want to rule you. We want to improve you." "Improve us?" The tree-like delegate seemed confused. Dr. Martinez smiled, and for the first time since the humans had entered, it was a warm expression. "Human medical advances have already extended the average lifespan of conquered species by 30%. Our agricultural techniques have eliminated hunger on 47 worlds. Our engineering has made faster-than-light travel safer and more efficient for everyone. You have given us things our civilizations had been trying to achieve for millennia, admitted a delegate from the collective of metals. But at what cost? The cost, General Chen said, is that you no longer get to make decisions that affect other species without their consent. The cost is that you must prove your intentions are peaceful before you are trusted with power. The cost is that your children will grow up in a galaxy where might does not make right. She looked around the chamber one more time. You voted unanimously to enslave humanity because you thought we were dangerous. You were right. We are dangerous to tyrants, to those who would prey on the weak, to those who believe fear justifies oppression. Zektar's form pulsed weakly. And what happens to us now? That depends on you, Diplomat Kim replied. The species that have cooperated with human administration have thrived. Those that have resisted, he shrugged. Well, they are no longer in a position to resist. You have a choice, General Chen concluded. You can join the new galactic order as equals, contributing your knowledge and culture to the common good. Or you can continue to resist and discover just how dangerous humans can be when patience runs out. The chamber fell silent as the human delegation turned and walked toward the exit. At the doorway, General Chen paused and looked back. You wanted to chain humanity because you feared what we might become, she said. Now you know. We became your protectors whether you wanted protection or not. The doors closed behind them with finality, leaving the broken remnants of the old Galactic Council to contemplate their choice. Outside, a new galaxy was being born, one where the youngest species had become the ultimate guardians of peace. And in the deepest archives of the Terran hegemony, carefully preserved for future generations, lay the record of that fateful vote. 847 species unanimous in their fear of humanity. Now they all lived under human protection, and not one would ever vote against Earth again. President Sarah Chen walked through the gardens of New Geneva Station, watching the morning sun filter through the transparent dome overhead. The space station hung in orbit around Earth, serving as the administrative center for what was now called the Terran hegemony. From here, humanity governed a galaxy that had once sought to enslave them. 5 years had passed since the Galactic Council's unanimous vote, 5 years since the failed invasion, 5 years since humanity had taken control of galactic civilization. The gardens were her favorite place on the station. Here, plants from hundreds of worlds grew side by side. Earth roses bloomed next to crystalline flowers from hegemony worlds. Singing trees from ethereal colonies provided a gentle melody that mixed with the buzzing of pollinating insects from a dozen different species. President Chen, a familiar voice, called out behind her. She turned to see Zektar approaching along the pathway. The former ambassador's crystalline form had been fully restored, his body now gleaming with health and energy. It had taken human medical technology to repair the damage from his homeworld's siege, and he had never forgotten that kindness. Good morning, Zektar, she replied, gesturing for him to join her on a bench that overlooked the central pond. How are the integration proceedings going? Better than expected, he admitted, settling beside her with the careful grace of his species. The Kethmornan delegates have agreed to full technological sharing. The Void Singer colonies are actually requesting more human advisors, Chen smiled. And how do you feel about that? 5 years ago, you led the vote to enslave us. Now you're helping us govern your former allies. Zektar's form pulsed with what humans had learned was the equivalent of rueful laughter. The irony is not lost on me, President. But neither is the reality. In 5 years under human administration, my people have achieved advances that eluded us for centuries. It was true. The hegemony worlds now enjoyed technologies that seemed almost magical. Human-designed medical nanomachines could repair genetic damage and extend lifespans indefinitely. Human agricultural techniques had eliminated hunger and want across hundreds of worlds. Human engineering had made interstellar travel as simple and safe as traveling between cities on a single planet. Your species continues to surprise us, Zektar continued. We expected conquest and subjugation. Instead, you gave us partnership and protection. Chen watched a group of children playing near the pond. Human children ran and laughed alongside young beings from a dozen different species. They played games that mixed human imagination with alien creativity, speaking a language that borrowed words from hundreds of worlds. Do you know what the children call themselves? She asked. Zektar looked toward the playing youngsters. I have heard them use the term galactics. They seem to consider species differences no more important than humans once considered differences in skin color or nationality. That's the future we're building, Chen said. Not human domination, but human integration. A galaxy where species work together instead of fearing each other. A new voice joined the conversation. President Chen? Sorry to interrupt, but you have a visitor. Chen turned to see her aide, Lieutenant Commander Rodriguez, approaching with someone she didn't immediately recognize. The being was tall and graceful, with skin that seemed to shift between colors like an oil slick. This is Ambassador Veltara, Rodriguez explained. She represents the Spiral Arm Confederacy. Chen stood, offering the greeting gesture she had learned for this species. Ambassador. This is unexpected. I thought the Confederacy had chosen to remain independent. Veltara returned the greeting, her skin shifting to colors that indicated respect and caution. We did, President Chen, but circumstances have changed. Oh? 3 new species have emerged in our region of space, Veltara explained. Young civilizations, aggressive and expansionist. They have already conquered 2 of our member worlds. Their technology is advancing rapidly, and they speak of cleansing the galaxy of older species. Chen and Zektar exchanged glances. Sounds familiar, Chen said dryly. We would like to request membership in the Terran hegemony, Veltara continued. We understand the requirements: full integration, technological sharing, acceptance of human administrative oversight. And you're willing to accept those terms? Chen asked. Veltara's skin shifted to colors that indicated complete sincerity. President Chen, in the 5 years since you took control of galactic government, there have been no major wars. Hunger has been eliminated on over 400 worlds. Disease has been virtually eradicated. Art and science flourish under your protection. She paused, looking around the beautiful gardens. Most importantly, no species under your protection has been enslaved, genocided, or forced to abandon their culture. You have proven that strength can be used to protect rather than oppress. Chen considered this. The Terran hegemony had grown steadily over the years, not through conquest but through request. Species after species had asked to join, seeking the security and prosperity that came with human protection. I'll present your request to the Council, she said. But I should warn you, membership comes with responsibilities as well as benefits. Such as? You'll be expected to contribute to the common defense. Your scientists will work on projects that benefit all member species. Your leaders will need to prove they govern for the good of their people, not their own power. We understand, Veltara said. We have studied your system. It is just. After the ambassador left, Chen and Zektar sat in comfortable silence for a while, watching the children play. Do you ever wonder, Zektar asked eventually, what would have happened if the Council had voted differently 5 years ago? If we had welcomed humanity instead of trying to enslave them? Chen considered the question. Honestly, I think we would have joined your galactic community eagerly. We wanted to belong, to be part of something larger than ourselves. But you made it clear that we could only belong as servants. And now? Now you belong to something larger than yourselves, Chen replied. But as partners, not servants. As equals, not slaves. A messenger approached, bringing Chen a datapad with the day's reports. She scanned through them quickly. Production reports from agricultural worlds, research updates from scientific colonies, cultural exchange programs between species. Population report from New Kepler, she read aloud. First generation of mixed species families are showing remarkable adaptive capabilities. Hegemony medical advances from the ethereal homeworld have reduced infant mortality by 90%. The Progenitor Archive Project has recovered another 1,000 years of lost galactic history. She looked up at Zektar. This is what we could have built together from the beginning. A civilization based on cooperation rather than domination. But would it have been as strong? Zektar asked. The threat you posed, the fear you generated, it forced rapid change across the galaxy. Species that had been stagnant for millennia suddenly advanced by centuries in just a few years. Chen smiled. You might be right. Maybe we needed to be enemies before we could become family. In the distance, Earth hung like a blue jewel against the star field. The planet had been restored to its original orbit, its surface once again green and blue and white. But hidden beneath that peaceful appearance were defenses that could protect not just Earth, but every world in the hegemony. There's something I never told you, Chen said. Something about that original vote. What's that? when we intercepted the transmission of your council session, when we learned that every species had voted to enslave us, we were terrified. Not just afraid, absolutely terrified. Zektar's form flickered with surprise. But you seemed so calm, so prepared. We were prepared because we were terrified, Chen explained. When you're that afraid, you have two choices: surrender or fight with everything you have. We chose to fight. She stood, preparing to return to her duties as leader of the galaxy's most powerful civilization. The funny thing about humans, Zektar, is that we're exactly as dangerous as you thought we were. We just choose to aim that danger at those who would harm the innocent. As she walked back toward the administrative complex, Chen reflected on the strange turns of fate. 5 years ago, humanity had been a primitive species facing extinction. Now they were the guardians of galactic civilization, protectors of hundreds of worlds, shepherds of 1,000 different cultures. The species that had voted to enslave them now looked to them for leadership. The civilizations that had tried to chain them now begged for their protection. And in the end, both humanity and the galaxy were stronger for it. In her office, the records of that fateful vote were displayed on the wall, a reminder of how fear and prejudice could nearly destroy everything. 847 species unanimous in their decision to subjugate Earth. Now they all lived under human protection, and the galaxy had never been more peaceful or prosperous. The irony was perfect, and President Chen smiled every time she looked at it.